everyone. I hope I am going live. I'm so happy to be back after my absence of a couple of weeks. And so in this session, this video of You the Miracle, bringing out the miracle in you and making you feel good about yourself, I want to take a closer look at guilt, or guilt and harsh self-judgment, how we do that, why we do that, and how we can release ourselves from that and feel freer. So guilt is something that girls do very, very well, by the way, girls and women. And guys, if you're a guy and you're listening to me, I bet you that you can relate to self-blame as well. So self-blame is a close cousin or a Siamese twin to guilt. And I've been married to Pete now for being together with him for 40 years, and I have seen how detrimental it is when Peter did live in blame for at least the first 20 years of our marriage. And I didn't know actually that Peter did, that he was blaming himself for the death of his friend who drowned when he was 20. I didn't know that because he didn't talk about it. I just felt his heavy energy for a long, long time. So I know that guys do it, and girls, we tend to feel guilty about everything because we often have so many things to do. We have this list of things that we want to tick off every day, and we overextend ourselves, and then we feel that we fall short and so on, and the guilt sneaks up on us. Sometimes we even feel guilty for feeling guilty, for having all that guilt, and we're stuck in it. We don't know how to liberate ourselves, and that can pile on the guilt as well. So if you relate to any of this, I'm going to encourage you to just stick with me till the end, even though it's a bit of a yucky topic, but you're going to feel better, trust me. So guilt makes us feel bad because it has a very dense frequency. I think it sits around 30 megahertz or something on the scale of frequencies, compared to, say, love, which has a frequency of 528. That's the frequency of unconditional love. And confidence, I think that has a frequency of, say, around 300 and so on. So you can see that guilt is one of the bottom dense emotions that really pulls us down. So I'm going to encourage you that for the next few weeks or so, that you're going to remember my words, hear my voice in your ear, and when you catch yourself feeling guilty about something for no reason, and usually it has really no use in your life at all, that you release it as quickly as you can using any tool that you can find. So having said that, I want to tell you where guilt comes from, okay? So guilt starts somewhere in our very, very early life. So when we're a little child, some wounding happens. Usually, like, nobody escapes wounding, no one. And I mean, I deal with a lot of clients who've had severe trauma, they've had ongoing trauma, or even maybe childhood abuse. But nobody escapes trauma, nobody escapes childhood wounding. Like my children, I try to be a really, really good mom. And I know that my children, of course, received their wounding at different times. So what happens when you're a little child and you receive a wounding, I like that word. It's like a pain, you're hurt, or something happens, there is chaos in the family, or your mom and dad separate when you're little, something like that, or you witness a fight, or you get told off, or it can be your grandmother dies, something like that. A wounding is received, and at that moment you make a decision about yourself, right in that very moment. And the decision will be something like, I am stupid, I am unlovable, I'm unwanted, I am blah, blah, blah. And so I am unworthy, nobody wants me, I am naughty, I am dumb, and so on and so on. And so the decision is made in an instant after the wounding, and then it goes underground and it sits in our tissues. It hides from us. And so, like, another wounding happens, more of the same message goes in. And so we build up all these belief systems about ourselves that create that frequency in our body that can be expressed or felt as guilt, or it sticks up its nasty little head as guilt. And by the way, if you're not conscious of guilty feelings, just listen to your body and I'll tell you where it sits. A lot of the time, guilt sits in the lungs, so that it can express itself as asthma, and it's good to massage these points here just to open the lung flow. Because as you realize now that when you were a little child and say grandma died, and the little child might have thought, well, grandma died because I was wearing my pajamas that day, or I was wearing my stripy pajamas or something. Children make those decisions, and then the child feels guilty because he or she thinks, if I hadn't worn those pajamas, grandma might still be alive. So we realize now that a lot of these emotions are in there for absolutely no reason. We can set that child free from guilt, our inner child, and restore our pure innocence. So guilt often sits in our lungs. So like I said, rub these points. It can sit in your tummy, creating belly aches and food allergies, and even it could sit in your ankle joint. So if you're somebody who's always tripping over or flopping, your ankles are hurting, or your ankles are like too stiff and inflexible and you tend to tear your ligaments around your ankles, I'm going to suggest to you that you do some active awareness around potential guilt issues in your tissues. So this explains how guilt happens to us. And then another really good way of looking at yourself and releasing some of this guilt while you're at it is just to think of yourself as a human being or a divine being having a go at life, because we didn't come into the world prepared for it. None of us came prepared. We didn't enter a relationship prepared for it, ever. We didn't enter parenthood prepared for it. Nobody can prepare you for it. You don't enter business prepared for it. Like, no, everyone in business knows that nothing can ever prepare you for what lies ahead. And so if you think of a little child, how it walks from, it starts to walk, it learns literally from falling over, right? We all know that. And so when the little child starts to take its first step and it trips over, the parent isn't going to guilt trip that child, right? Even the child itself isn't going to say, oh, silly me, I should have got it right in the first go. And yeah, this is actually something that we do in our business and in our relationship and so on. So, like, let's say we go back to the child that's taking its first steps, and after it's fallen down and gotten up maybe 100 times, finally it's able to, walk from one end of the house to the next. And this is like a great analogy of how we do life. So we, the students in the School of Life, in a personal development workshop that we kind of signed up for, maybe because we came into this life. So this is the School of Personal and Spiritual Development, and God is sending us, or the universe is giving us the lessons, and the lessons are presented to us as thinly disguised problems or things that go wrong. Like, things go wrong, we trip up, but actually there is a lesson in that. So they are thinly disguised problems, but a lot of people don't know, well, this is actually what life is all about. I better learn my lesson, and when I learn this lesson, I can play at the next level. I can bring a better, more empowered version of me to the table when the next challenge hits, right? And so often if you look back over your life, you can see that things keep on repeating and repeating till the universe or God sees that you've learned that lesson enough, and now you're ready to move on to the next challenge. And it's all good, because what comes out of that is a better, more enriched version of you, right? The experiences that have cost us the most pain are often the most valuable lessons with the most valuable learnings, and we get wiser. We become more alive, we don't get less alive, and so on. So next time you make a mistake, or you trip over, or you do something silly, instead of doing the old guilt tripping thing, just see yourself as that little child. Go back to that innocent little child and ask yourself, why is this happening for me? What's the lesson here? What can I gain from it? And if I learned that lesson, how would it change me? Because the guilt is just a distraction, and it's really distracting you from getting the value out of that experience. So that's my encouragement for you tonight, to look at the guilt. And when you notice guilt, if you promise me that if you ever notice a guilty feeling, that you deal with it straight away. Let it go. Just release it. Move it. Let it be moved through your body, and you feel lighter, in your whole immune system and your relationships. Everything will get an up level. And realize at the same time that you are a child of God, having a go at the school of life, and that problems and things that trip you up are the lessons, right? They're just disguised into a different package, and that they're adding more value to you. That your life does matter. You are worthy. You're also worthy of support. You're worthy of all the gifts and the blessings that are on the other side of the lessons. So that's what I wanted to make clear for you. And also, here's another funny one that I often catch myself doing, and that I'm hoping you don't do it, but probably you do. So like, often when I get an amazing breakthrough or a big aha about myself, and then I think, wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad I got that breakthrough. I feel so much better now. And then sometimes I notice I'm turning that around, and then I beat myself up for being so stupid earlier on in my life, or last year, or for being such a slow student. Then I think, well, why didn't I learn that 10 years ago? And I could have had so much better quality of life, and so on. So we do that sort of thing as well. So it's like literally our mind, our monkey mind, can trip us up in many ways. And we just judge ourselves so harshly. No one judges us as harsh as we do ourselves. And so never look at your past, previous self through the lenses of now, okay? Because the universe knows that if you could have handled that lesson earlier, or that learning, or that aha moment, it would have given it to you earlier, but you weren't ready for it, because everything happens in perfect timing in this perfect universe of ours, where everything is really in perfect order, even if it doesn't always seem like that. So that is all the mindset and explanation that I wanted to share with you tonight. And I have like maybe 5 minutes left to take you through a little meditation, like inward into the place where guilt often sits in our body, so we can release it with self-compassion. So I'm going to invite you now to do that with me. And so I want you to think of something that you still feel you have some guilt around, okay? And it doesn't have to make sense, because remember, when the guilt was instilled, the little you, the 3-year-old, or the 2-year-old, or the 1-year-old even, or the 4-year-old, life didn't make much sense at that time, right? And so we want to get into some of those default programmings. But guilt can show up in our present, today, now moment as I feel guilty because I didn't do enough work today. I feel guilty because I overspent on the money, or I know what I should be doing and I haven't done it yet, and so on, all those stories. So just choose one of those stories. Okay, when you've got one, I want you to close your eyes with me, and just when you close your eyes, you connect with your unconscious mind where those stories are alive, where they're running the show, draining your energy. Just take a nice breath and out, and just drop into the back of your body, so further in the back where it's quiet. And then I want you to just notice your awareness as it drops into the back of your heart. So your heart, think of your beautiful big heart, how it's beating away on your behalf. Breathe into it. Connect with the pure innocence that's at the back of your heart. And then I want you to bring to mind you yourself as a little child. Just choose like age 3, something like that. So age 3, you're already running around a little bit, you're curious about everything. And notice if you can feel compassion for that 3-year-old innocent little child. And that little child is tucked inside your heart. You wouldn't wish that little child to be burdened down with big chunks of guilt that are just weighing down like rocks in a backpack. So just think of a photo of yourself, or maybe if you have a niece or a nephew or a grandchild or a child, that's a 3-year-old. Just welcome that child into your heart. Breathe into it. Put your hands on your heart, making sure you're connecting with that inner child. And I want you to say something like, it wasn't your fault. You are innocent. I love you unconditionally. It wasn't your fault. You're free now. Just let it go. Just go back to playing. If you feel more guilt, if you feel another wave of guilt show up about anything, just say out loud to yourself, look, there's that old guilt again. And it's looking cute today. Just see how cute it looks. And just have a little smile on your face when you think of it. It's making you smile because it actually makes no sense at all. And you can let it go today. Just think of all the years you've been carting it around in your cells and in your tissues, giving you belly aches. And just notice the intention of the little child, how innocent it is, and the energy is so pure, and it's such a divine, sacred being. And nothing is really changed because that inner child, that's still you, that's the child that runs your subconscious mind. And so you can see a color, so a color frequency often gives you a lift and sense of expansion. So like for instance, if you're touching your heart, that's the color green. And feel a sense of expansion. And green is the color for unconditional love. And feel all the places in your heart or in your body where in the past you felt that old guilt and self-judgment and you felt the harshness of that. Just feel, let go of it and feel the color green. The frequency of unconditional love and compassion. Knowing it isn't your fault. And so like if that child is looking up at you, you can just say it isn't your fault. It wasn't your fault then and it isn't your fault now. You're just a child, a human being having a go at life. You're having a go and I respect you for having a go. And look how far you've come. So just inhale deeply. And feel compassion for all the times that you tripped over, that you maybe judged yourself harshly that you felt you didn't learn your lessons enough, or that an old lesson came around again, just feel compassion and kindness and commit to unconditionally loving yourself. So, now that it feels lighter and more expanded, you can come back in behind your eyes and then open your eyes into the world with soft eyes. And remember to stay in this soft, bubbly space for as long as you can. Don't let other people come along and pop it. Protect yourself, stay in this bubble, and go to sleep in bed tonight with it expecting to meet your inner child. And if he or she pops up, you can say, you're free now, it wasn't your fault, you're innocent, I love you for having a go at life, I respect you for tripping over so many times, and you just keep going. And so this is a really good way of releasing guilt from your body, so you get more energy, your hormones start kicking over, your immune system gets stronger, your frequencies lift, and your relationships become closer, and you feel closer to yourself and others as well. So I hope you really enjoy this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. Let me know during the week how you go, or pop in a comment in the box if you relate to this, if you guilt trip yourself all the time. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you how you're having a go at releasing this from your body. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you next week, next Monday at 8 o'clock again. Bye everyone.